The battlefield was silent, but silence was never peaceful. Smoke curled in the red-tinged sky, a toxic haze that smelled of burned stone and scorched metal. Corporal Elias Wren staggered through the ruins of what had once been a proud citadel, now nothing more than fractured walls and shattered spires. His unit was gone, annihilated by the swarm of alien warbeasts that had poured over the horizon only a day before. Humanity had been at war with the Valari for a decade. The queen of their kind was said to be merciless, a being bred in shadow and sharpened by endless conflict. She commanded millions across the galaxy, and the Terran Federation had thrown everything it had against her tide, and lost. Elias stumbled over broken armor, his canteen clinking against his thigh. He had only a few ration bars left, each bite measured carefully over the last 3 days. Hunger gnawed at his insides, but worse than hunger was despair. He was stranded on a world claimed by the enemy. His comms fried, no rescue coming. That was when he heard it. A thin cry, soft, broken, almost too faint to be real. He froze, hand gripping the sidearm at his hip. The sound came again, weak, trembling. It wasn't the shriek of a Valari soldier or the hiss of a beast. It was small, fragile. Curiosity, or perhaps some forgotten instinct, pulled him toward the sound. Through the rubble, beneath a collapsed archway, he found a narrow chamber still half intact. Inside, nestled against fragments of shattered crystal, was a child. Not human. Its skin was pale violet, mottled with faint bioluminescence. Its eyes, too large for its face, glowed faintly in the darkness. It was thin, emaciated, ribs showing beneath the fragile frame. Valari child. Enemy. Elias raised his pistol, hands trembling. He should end it. The Valari had killed thousands, millions. One less would make no difference, but it would be one strike back against the endless tide. His finger hovered over the trigger. Then the child whimpered again, a sound so frail, so human in its desperation, that his grip faltered. The pistol lowered. He saw the way its tiny hands clutched at the air, the way its lips were cracked and dry. It was starving. Against every instinct that screamed at him, Elias pulled the last ration bar from his pack. He unwrapped it, breaking off a piece, and held it out. The child hesitated, staring at him with those luminous eyes, then snatched the food and devoured it with shaking hands. Elias gave another piece, then another. The child ate, tears spilling from its alien eyes. In that moment, something inside Elias shifted. This wasn't a soldier. This wasn't the enemy. This was a child left behind in the ashes of war. And he had chosen to save it. For 3 days, Elias stayed hidden in the ruined chamber with the child. He rationed what little food he had, teaching the young Valari to chew slowly, to sip water sparingly. The child's strength returned little by little, though it never spoke. Its gaze followed him constantly, filled with an intensity he couldn't understand. On the 4th day, the air changed. The ground trembled as a formation of shadow ships descended from the sky, their hulls black and iridescent like obsidian scales. The queen had come. Elias should have fled, but he was too weak, and the child clung to him as if sensing danger. He tried to push it behind the rubble, but it would not let go. The soldiers came first, towering Valari warriors clad in living armor, weapons glowing with plasma light. They surrounded the chamber, weapons raised. Elias knew it was over. He pulled his pistol, though it was useless, and placed himself between them and the child. Then she arrived. The alienqueen. She was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Taller than a human, Her presence seemed to bend the air around her. Her skin shimmered with shifting hues, her crown of living bone rising like a halo of blades. Her eyes burned with intelligence, cold and merciless. Her gaze fell on Elias first, then on the child clinging to his side. Something unreadable flickered across her face. The warriors aimed their weapons. Elias stood firm though his legs shook. "If you want him," he rasped, voice hoarse, "you'll go through me." The queen raised a hand and her soldiers froze. Silence pressed down on the chamber. Slowly she stepped forward. The child whimpered, then wriggled free and stumbled into her arms. For the first time, Elias saw softness on her face. She cradled the child against her chest, her eyes closing as if a wound within her had just healed. When she opened them again, she looked at Elias. "You fed him," she said, her voice layered with harmonics that resonated through the stone. It wasn't a question. Elias swallowed. He was starving. Her gaze lingered on him, sharp and searching, as if peeling back every layer of his soul. Then, with a voice that seemed both command and vow, she said, "For saving my son, you shall command my legions." The words struck him like a blow. Elias blinked, certain he had misheard. Her legions. The same armies that had ravaged entire systems. He was human, her enemy. Yet she spoke as though fate itself had woven this bond. The queen turned to her soldiers. "This man is under my protection. His word carries mine. Obey him as you obey me." The soldiers lowered their weapons instantly. Elias's knees nearly gave out. He wanted to protest, to refuse, but the child's small hand reached back toward him, and something in that gesture silenced every objection. In that moment, his life was no longer his own. Rising conflict. Command of the Valari legions was no gift. It was a burden. Elias found himself aboard the flagship, surrounded by alien generals who looked upon him with suspicion and disdain. The queen herself kept him close, her son never far from his side. She explained little, only that the bond he had forged was sacred among her kind. By feeding the heir in his moment of need, Elias had become part of an ancient covenant, an oath of protection that no Valari could break. The war had reached a turning point. Both humanity and Valari were on the brink of destruction. Their worlds burned, their fleets shattered. The queen intended to march her legions once more, but now Elias had a voice among them. At first, he tried to use it to save human lives, ordering retreats, calling for mercy. Some Valari commanders ignored him, but the queen enforced obedience with ruthless precision. Over time, Elias realized she was testing him, not just his loyalty but his resolve. He walked a knife's edge. Too much mercy, and the Valari would see weakness. Too much cruelty, and he would lose himself. But the child, Kale, as Elias learned his name, stayed always near. The boy trusted him completely, clinging to him as if he were a second father. And through Kale, Elias began to see the Valari not as monsters, but as people. Families, soldiers, children who laughed and wept just as humans did. It was a revelation that tore him in two.